Hi, Pastor Nathan Decker with your Better Together devotion for this week. And this week is Epiphany. Epiphany is a day that we celebrate the wise men coming and experiencing the light of the star and following that yonder light. But it's also come to be a term that we use in our society. To have an epiphany is to have something that brings new light and new understanding to who we are and how we see the world. My hope is that this video provides you with an epiphany moment. You see, most of us go through the world with God in a box. We have our experiences, we have our understandings, our assumptions about the Bible and our interpretations. We have our way that we've been raised up in the tradition, and all of that fits nice and neat, compactly inside our box. And that has become the way that we see God. It's the way we understand who God is and what God is doing and what God is calling us to be and who we are in the light of God's kingdom. And that's wonderful. The problem hits when we encounter someone else who has other things in their box. You see, it's fine, and for the most part, most of us live on islands where we all seem to get along because we all have this common, generally understood understanding about who God is and what God is doing and who we are in the midst of that and what God is calling us to do. But when someone has an experience or a way of being that does not fit inside our own box, then it just causes so much conflict. We begin to butt heads. Sometimes we begin calling each other names and using terms like liberal and conservative and all of that, when the reality is that all of this is simply about our box. Whether or not we want to admit it, we have become arrogant and we have become prideful and we have become God hoarders. It seems that we want to put God in a box, and I understand that because for the most part, most of us want God to be one of two things. We want God to be like us and justify all the ways that we live our lives. Or we want God to be the best version that we could ever imagine of who humanity could be. And we strive for that. The reality and the answer, truly theologically, is that both answers are simply putting God in a box. Because it's our assumptions, our understanding that are limiting who God is and what God is doing. Thankfully, God put more than one of us on this earth. Thankfully, God put more than one expression of the Spirit, more than one understanding of what can happen. And because of that, it's the interaction between our boxes that is where we learn the most about who God is. When we disagree, that is the point where we have the opportunity to create the friction and the spark where we can actually learn about who God is, about what God is doing, about who we are, and about what we are called to be in this world. It's when we encounter other people, when we get together in a group and begin doing this, what the Methodists call holy conferencing. And that's not to form some decision or some new doctrine. That's what it's devolved into. No, it's to really come close and experience a means of grace. To actually come together and experience an epiphany. A moment where the Holy Spirit tells us something new, that brings new light, new life, that shows a way to guide us by that yonder star so that we can come and experience God, Jesus, the Spirit at work. This week, I want to challenge you to think about how you've packed your box. What are some of the assumptions that you brought to who God is, how God speaks, to the Bible, to prayer, to worship, to all of this? Unpack a little bit of who you are, and then go and find someone that you know is different than you, whose expressions and whose understanding about faith come from an entirely different perspective. And talk about it to each other. Talk about what it means to be you and to talk to that person and express your understanding of God, and do it freely, vulnerably, and share. Because it's only in the sharing that we create the momentum of that spiritual impact, where we talk to each other and hear each other and learn more about the God in you and the God in me and the God that's been expressed that we have come to assume. This week, be challenged, be changed, find light in the Epiphany. Amen.